Thank you, David. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend Krista Taves, Minister of Congregational Life here at Eliot, and also the minister of the First Unitarian Church of Alton, Illinois, where this worship service is being simulcast. Let's say hi to everybody in Alton. I am so pleased to welcome all of you to worship this morning. At Eliot, our mission is that we are bound by courageous love, we are growing in spirit, and we are inspiring compassionate action. At Alton, our mission is to be outward reaching and inward seeking, creating and nurturing an intentional community that values acceptance, social justice, and the embodiment of UU principles. We are inclusive religious communities where we welcome all ages, all races, all types of families, all sexual orientations and gender identities, all classes, all religious backgrounds, and the fullness of who you are. If you are visiting for the first time, whether in person or online, a very special welcome to you. I hope that your time with us is meaningful and spirit-filled, and that we will see you again. Hopefully you received a guest form on your way in. If you didn't, you can get one after the service. Please fill that out, and if you wish, and leave it in the offertory basket so that we can stay in touch. If you're visiting online, please let us know you're visiting by emailing welcome@eliotchapel.org, and then we can personally welcome you as well. Please join us for coffee hour in Adams Hall after the service. Grab a blue mug so that we'll be sure to welcome you. And we also have Zoom coffee hour at 12:30. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, our symbol is a lit chalice symbolizing the light of truth, love, and wisdom. We light a chalice when we enter sacred space and prepare to give and receive the blessing of beloved community, which happens whenever we gather. May the light we now kindle and the time we now share anchor us to that inner flame, that sacred center, which helps us remember who we were before the world told us who it wanted us to be. May our time together clear the way for those memories and voices and friends that lead us back home. I invite you to rise as you do for our opening hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
To Hi, I'm Janet Selecki. I'm a member of the Social Justice Steering Team, so join us. As a free country, I believe in the freedom to choose as a basic human right. Please join me in the unison reading of our church covenant, which is printed in your order of service. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be, to listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends.
Thank you, Janet. So you know how there's this big rule in church? You were probably taught it when you were a kid, whatever religious institution you went to, and we've probably taught it to our kids, which is that you don't yell in church. Well, we're breaking that rule for just a few minutes. This is a yell-free zone, yell-full zone. You've got one line in this story that's a super important line, and I want you to shout it as loud as you can. No means no. No means no. One more time, because I didn't hear you over in Alton. Okay? No means no. All right, you're getting there. I bet you it's going to get louder through the story. When Aunt Jeannie asked for a kiss, and I don't want to, no means no. I can choose to blow her a kiss, shake her hand, and give her a high five, but if I don't want to hug her a kiss, no means no. When it's bath time, and my mom asks if she can wash and dry my private parts, and I say, no thanks, I can do it all by myself, no means no. I can wash and dry my own private parts today, tomorrow, or the next day, because my body is my body, and I am the boss of it. Sometimes my big cousin looks after me. We run races and have fun on the swings, but if he wants to wrestle and play tickling games and I don't want to, no means no. We can build a giant sandcastle in the sand or play catch with a ball, but if I don't want to wrestle or play tickling games, no means no. You're really good at this. When someone asks to hold my hand at school and I want to walk all by myself, no means no. Sometimes I like to walk by myself and I don't want to hold anyone's hand. I can say no thanks or not today as kindly as I can. When people ask me things and I say no, I don't mean maybe, and I don't mean I'm not sure. What I really mean is no means no. So even though I may be small, I am strong, and I have a voice that is loud and clear. So when I say no, no means no. And that is the end of the story. Let's sing our children off to their classes, shall we? Today's prayer is dedicated to the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion in the United States in 1973. Spirit of life, let us pray for mothers and motherhood, parents and parenthood, the most sacred place between being and not being, the gift of grace, the promise of personhood, the dawn and the dusk. For mothers everywhere, mothers of all kinds, give life to dreams that illuminate our souls. They are often our best selves within us and our world. Pray for motherhood that is more than just a choice, but rather a lived dialogue between the human and the holy, in which each woman and person who holds the potential for birth is affirmed as being fully fluent, conversing with their own God, their own spirit, their own meaning, and their own possibilities within, and sharing that wisdom with the world. Let us pray for motherhood not as a battlefield, but as a harvest of everything we can be, feeding us, nurturing us, helping us to grow, and having the unique wisdom to tell the world when the field should bear no crops, when the furrow shall remain fallow, when the only word is no. Pray for motherhood, all motherhood, every shape and size, length and kind. Let us enter into a time of silence for the deepest prayers of our hearts. Let us speak the names of those we would hold in prayer. May they all be blessed and holy, and in their every and individual ways whole. Amen. That prayer was written by Reverend Adam Dyer. Now invite us to stay seated for our meditative hymn, number 1003, Where Do We Come From? Every week, we give away half of our offering to remind ourselves that all we have is meant to serve the greater good. A generous people will always have abundance. This month, our offertory is dedicated to Metropolitan Congregations United, which puts faith into action by developing leaders who move their congregations, organizations, and communities to change public policy for the common good. MCU has a focus on racial equity, and recent priorities include voting rights, breaking the school-to-prison pipeline, clean drinking water in schools, and raising the age of juvenile jurisdiction so that minors cannot be charged or imprisoned as adults. Let us serve our communities in all the ways we can. Let us be a generous people. Will the ushers please come forward to accept the offering? Would the ushers please come forward with our offering? Please join me in blessing this offering with the words printed in your order of service. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Thank you. Our reading this morning is by Valerie Kaur. I believe that deep wisdom resides within each of us. Some call this voice by different sacred names: Spirit, God, Jesus, Allah, Om, Buddha nature, Waheguru. Others think of this voice as the intuition one hears when in a calm state of mind. Whatever name we choose, listening to our deepest wisdom requires disciplined practice. The loudest voices in the world right now are ones running on the energy of fear, criticism, and cruelty. But I must not lose myself at the feet of others. My most vigilant spiritual practice is finding the seconds of solitude to get quiet enough to hear the wise woman in me. Here's what I discovered about wise woman within. Her voice is quiet. I have to get really quiet in order to hear her. How do I know when I'm hearing her voice? She is tender and truthful. She is not afraid of anything or anyone. She does not give me all the answers, but she does know what I need to do in this moment: to wonder, grieve, fight, rage, listen, reimagine, breathe, or push. Thus ends the reading. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I want us to imagine that it is 1971, 2 years before the legalization of abortion through the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court decision in 1973. Some of you will remember this time very, very well. Many of us weren't even born yet and only know it through history books and documentaries. 1971, It is a restless time in our country's history. The second wave feminist movement seems unstoppable. The civil rights movement, the environmental movement, the anti-Vietnam War protests, they are all connected. University campuses are hotbeds of dissent. Just the year before, anti-war protesters burned down the ROTC building at Washington University in St. Louis. At the University of Florida, a student named Ron Sachs, editor of the college newspaper, wants to run a story about the impact of Florida's abortion ban on women on campus. To become pregnant, especially an unplanned pregnancy in 1971, is an obstacle course riddled with danger and shame. Unmarried women are slapped with the stigma of being loose women, tarnished women. You can lose your job, get kicked out of school, or have to quit college. You can lose the respect of your family, your community, face the judgment of your church, face poverty, face estrangement. You might be pressured to marry. You might be hidden away at a home for unwed mothers until you have given birth and the child is relinquished for adoption and you're supposed to go home and live as if nothing happened. Or you can try to avoid all of this and get an abortion, which is expensive, illegal, and physically dangerous. Ron has wanted to do something to help the women in his life and the women on campus, and he has been wondering and thinking what he can do. And he looks in his heart, and he knows what he has to do. I'm reminded of the words by Scott Taylor in our chalice lighting this morning. Anchor us to that inner flame, that sacred center which helps us remember who we were before the world told us who it wanted us to be. So Ron decides to dedicate an entire issue of the college paper to exploring the impact of the abortion ban on campus, to tell the stories of so many women who have faced unplanned pregnancies. Ron also wants to publish a list of organizations and clinics where women can go for help and where they can go to get safe abortions. But Florida has this old law that makes it a felony to share information about abortion. And he decides he is going to publish that list anyways. Well, the president of the university gets wind of it and personally calls Ron and forbids him to publish the list. And Ron doesn't listen. He sends the paper unchanged to the publisher. And then the publisher calls him and says, "What are you asking me to do? I am not publishing this list." And Ron says, "Okay, all right, take it out." And he then makes 22,000 copies of the list on a mimeograph machine. How many of you remember mimeograph machines? You literally crank for every copy. That's 22,000 cranks. And he goes to his staff and says, "We are going to every newspaper box and stuff this insert in every paper. I can't make you do this. You know it's risky. But if you want to help, we better get going." And they stuffed all 22,000 papers before morning. Ron is arrested and charged under the Abortion Information Act. His lawyers prepare a robust defense based on the First Amendment that protects the freedom of speech. And the judge rules that the Abortion Information Act was unconstitutional. Strike one. Then the lawyers say, "You want us to go after the whole abortion ban?" And he's like, "Yeah." And the same judge rules that the abortion ban was also unconstitutional. Strike two. And because Ron believes in women, trusts women, and understands that when you lose autonomy over your body, you are not free, because he believes this and goes after it and listens to his inner self abortion is legalized in Florida 2 years before Roe versus Wade legalizes abortion in the entire country. It is an incredible and mostly untold story. And I think it's important to tell these stories because men have also been critical in securing reproductive justice, because it's not just about us with ovaries. It's about everyone. None of us are free unless everyone is free. Today is the 50th anniversary of Roe versus Wade, a day we would be celebrating if the circumstances were different. But instead, we are in the shadow of the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe versus Wade. And like many of you, I was heartbroken on June 24th. I got a stomach ache, my head hurt, I lost my appetite, I was short-tempered, and my heart started pounding when I thought about the decision. And I also took the decision very personally because it was announced the day before my birthday, for heaven's sakes. And my mom, who hadn't visited in 3 years, was in the kitchen baking my favorite dessert. Take note, potluck goers, gluten-free angel food cake with fresh strawberries and whipped cream. That is my favorite dessert, so just remember that for when it's important. But it was heartbreaking. It was hard to concentrate. I was so happy my parents were there, and then this shadow just descended. And I began talking with friends, with people like you, with trusted colleagues, asking what we could do, concrete things to help women and others who get pregnant to get the full range of health care they need and deserve. And a few months ago, I got my chance. And I have to tell you in all truth, it is all Gail Rock's fault. Gail Rock, are you watching us from Florida? Gail Rock, longtime member of this congregation. At the time, she was the president of the St. Louis Area UU Council, and she called to welcome me to St. Louis and offered to get me connected. And at that time, I was looking for what my activist thing in St. Louis would be. As Unitarian Universalist ministers, we are expected to do more than serve our congregations. We are expected to be activists as well. So I was looking. And it's through Slack that I learned about the vacant seat on the board of the Missouri Coalition for Reproductive Choice, Missouri Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. Sign me up, I said. And I met Reverend Becky Turner, the executive director of MORCRC. And in a few years, I stepped up as president, and Becky and I became friends and co-conspirators in fighting for the freedom to have the full range of healthcare choices for all people who can bear children. And it's Becky who reached out last fall. Those of you who know Becky know it's very hard to say no to Becky. And she said, there's something big coming up. Do you want to be part of it? And it was big. The Americans United for the Separation of Church and State and the National Women's Law Center were building a case that the abortion ban in Missouri is unconstitutional because it violates the state constitution, which forbids the establishment of religion by the state. The abortion ban is based on the abortion ban is based on the belief that life begins at conception, which is a conservative Christian belief. Making that belief law forces all Missourians to live under the rules of one religion, and that is unconstitutional in our state. So they were looking for clergy to form a plaintiff team, people who can clearly articulate what our faith believes about abortion. Was I in? Amen. Absolutely. As Unitarian Universalists, we have been supportive of choice for a long time. It's just part of who we are. Excuse me. Excuse me. We breathe choice. We live choice. But how do we explain our pro-choice conviction theologically? Could you, if someone asked, share what theological foundation supports our belief that abortion is a moral choice? How many of you could answer that question theologically? Well, then it's a good thing you came this morning. Because my goal this morning is to equip you to be able to, I had COVID over Christmas and what's left is the cough. I am not infectious. I test every day. Just to let you know. Well, then it's a good thing you came this morning because my goal this morning is to equip you to be able to share our theological reasons for being pro-choice. So here goes. Listen carefully. Unitarian Universalism is a radically embodied faith. And what this means is that we know that our entire experience of our lives is through our bodies. For those of us who do not believe in an afterlife or a higher power, that will be the only experience we have. When we die, that's it, we're gone. So we have a deep reverence for the human body because it contains our one and only existence. For those of us who do believe in a higher power, we believe the spark of the holy lives in each of us. We are made in the image of God, or a creative consciousness, and it lives in us. It lives in our bodies. It's like the spark of that chalice. That's what's happening in our bodies. And bodily autonomy, the right to have control over what happens to our body, is thus sacred. It is a primary sacred value for us. So Unitarian Universalists, from atheists to theists, give a deep and abiding reverence to the body of each person. And for someone else to have control over what happens to our bodies is a profound violation of our understanding of what is sacred. So if our bodies are places of reverence, and given that the spark of life burns in each of us, we anchor wisdom and truth in our embodied experience, which includes our conscience, one of the ways that the spark of life or the spark of the divine or the spark of God expresses itself. And this means that to know the will of the holy or God or the human spirit of life, you don't have to go outside of yourself to a Bible or a minister or a theologian for what is right and true. These are resources for you, but they aren't the ultimate place of authority. Our authority rests within, deep within. And to meet the sacred, you go deep inside, into your heart, into your mind, into your body, and just listen. Listen to what your embodied self is telling you. So when someone becomes pregnant and is uncertain about whether they want to be pregnant, we don't tell them what to do to their body because it is not our place. Our first priority is to support that person as they go within to their inner authority and listen to what their body and their spirit is telling them. This is how we honor the spark of life and reverence the body that holds who they are. We say, go deep into yourself and listen and trust what you are feeling and thinking. Center in that place and you will find the path that is calling to you. Now, how do we know that the voice we're listening to isn't just our ego, making up great reasons to do things that we shouldn't be doing? As human beings, we know we can delude ourselves of all kinds of things and justify just about any behavior. I mean, we humans do some pretty messed up things. But one of the things we let go of as Unitarians and Universalists, and then Unitarian Universalists, early in our history, is the idea of original sin, that we are born into depravity. When you believe in original sin, it means that human beings don't have a moral center of their own accord. They need something from outside of themselves to help them be good people. So we need strong rules and consequences to make good decisions. That's what comes from a belief in original sin. But we don't believe that. The goodness is already there. We are born with it. Universalists would say that we are born in the image of God. Unitarians would say that we were born with the faculties given to us by God. That's so we know within what is right and true. Those were the early Unitarians and Universalists when our denomination was still predominantly Christian, which it's not. But those Christian ideas keep getting reframed and retranslated into what we believe today and why we believe in going within as a site of authority and wisdom and truth. So yes, human beings can do really bad things, but it's not because we were born sinful. It's because crappy things happen to us and make us afraid, and bad decisions are made out of fear. But we aren't afraid of what human beings will do if they are led by their moral center. In fact, when you know you are trusted and loved and treasured, you will learn how to listen to your center and hear it clearly. Did you know that this is a core of our religious education program? To help children learn they are trusted and loved and treasured, and that when they listen to their center and hear it clearly, that is truth and love. And that's why regarding the issue of abortion, to trust women, to trust the one who is pregnant. Our job is to love and trust each other. The next thing I want to talk about is when we believe life starts. The abortion bans in Missouri are based in the conservative Christian belief that life begins at conception. But what do we believe? If someone asks you, when does life begin, what would you answer? I personally believe that the question itself, when does life begin, and the demand to answer it is a form of religious oppression, because it measures all religions by the perspective of one. And for me as a Unitarian Universalist, the idea that this question of when life begins can even be answered is arrogant and presumptuous. Think of our meditative hymn this morning. Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery, mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Life is a mystery. And mysteries are not to be quantified or defined. Mysteries are to be respected as mysteries. There are things we just can't know, and a sign of a spiritually mature person is accepting that. Actually, it's more than that. It's embracing that. So when someone were to ask me, when does life begin? I would say that's not my primary question, because it is an unanswerable question. My primary concern is what meaning has the pregnant person given to their pregnancy? When they go deep in themselves, how do they understand what is forming in their body? It's not for me to say. It's not for you to say. It's certainly not for the government to say. It's for them to say. That's how we honor their inherent worth and dignity and the sacredness of their body and their life. We have an evolving way. We have an evolving understanding of life that is way bigger than a simple question of when it begins, because life is everywhere. It is in every tree, in every rock. It is in the sun and the moon and the stars. It is in animals and insects, in our pets. It is in the rivers and the earth and in the air we breathe. Life embeds itself in the ceaseless cycle of birth and death with no beginning and no end. So where is life not? Where is life not? So our conviction that abortion is a moral choice is based on these things. Our bodies are sacred. No one has the right to violate that sacredness by imposing their will on that body. Each of us contains a spark of the divine, and we connect to that spark by listening to our deepest selves. We have a moral center because we are inherently good. Life is a mystery that we don't have the right to quantify or define. We trust those who are pregnant to determine their own meaning of what is forming in their body, to look inside themselves, to look outside of themselves at the life they are living and saying, is this the right time for me? And we are called to love, to trust, to cherish, and to hold one another, especially at the tender and uncertain moments, without judgment, without expectations, but instead with a deep compassion, understanding, and acceptance. So that's the answer. That's the theological foundation that grounds our conviction that abortion is a moral choice. How does that sound? Bravo. Does that sound liberating? Does that sound loving? Does that sound loving? It sure is. So in the coming days, as this case moves through the system, this is what I'll be sharing. And I ask for your prayers and your thoughts, that I remain strong and centered, that I find courage when I'm afraid, and that I'll never forget that I'm not doing this alone. I have you right by my side, and I have the legacy of our great living tradition. If I can stay anchored in my embodied moral center and listen for what my body and spirit are telling me, my hope is that the spark of the divine may burn just a bit brighter for every Missourian. This is what I wish for myself and also for you. Amen, and blessed be. Amen. Bravo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our closing hymn is about that spark of life that flows through all of us. Hymn 107, there's a river flowing. Let's sing it with all we've got.
That's 1,007.
Flowing
Before we flow on out of here, I want to let you know that there's a table in Adams Hall with postcards ready for you to fill out and send to your legislators expressing your convictions about the right to have an abortion. Our closing words. May we dare to live from the center of our being. May we make our own choices before others' choices make us. May the fire that burns in our belly light our way, and may that personal commitment to our own individual lights make the world shine anew. So we extinguish this chalice that the light may live in our hearts, in our minds, and in our bodies until we meet again. Please be seated for our postlude. Thank you, choir. Thank you for being with us today. Go in peace.